Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast with Eric Hersey. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumor, and history. And as always, I'm joined by my just returning from Florida co-host, one Eric Hersey. Correct me if I'm wrong, you were only going to spend like a day at Universal this time around, right?
Yeah, Jim, it's crazy what a year of podcasting about Universal every week will do to you.
Okay.
We found ourselves scheduled to go one day. We were going to stay at Endless Summer Dockside because we were blacked out. We had this trip planned well in advanced, and it was a Disney trip, but we were blacked out from our annual pass on one day. So I'm like, all right, let's get Universal in. And next thing you know is we ended up at Universal multiple times. And spoiler alert, we're now annual pass holders. So.
Wow. Okay. Didn't you also do that special tour at the park?
Well, Jim, that was the question: is add to special day at the park, or just add more days in general and do more. So we opted out of doing the special tour, because originally we thought we would only get one day, and it was important to get everything holiday festive done. So we did everything holiday. We just decided to do it in 2, 3, and a half days and so forth. So we experienced it all, and I believe we'll talk mostly about that. We'll talk throughout this show. We'll talk a little bit, but I know next week's show, we're going to have a good portion where we just talk about a little bit of the holidays and what we kind of experienced.
All right. So toward that end, there is a lot of Universal news that happened while Eric was away, and we want to get to that. But before we do that, we have to acknowledge our sponsor, which of course is Touring Plans. And the Epic Universal Podcast is sponsored by Touring Plans. Touring Plan helps you save time and money at theme parks like Universal and the Disney parks. So please check them out at touringplans.com. So, okay, we are, as we mentioned, I think at the top of the show, we're recording this in December. In fact, this will be the show that goes live on the 14th? No, 13th of December.
Friday the 13th, Jim. It's a perfect time to watch all the Krampus and all the horror holiday specials that are out there now. And there's a few of those.
Yeah, I caught. Is it Violent Night?
Yes.
One.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I wasn't ready to enjoy that, but I did. Mind you, it is the darker side of Home Alone, but
it kind of cancels out all the Hallmark movies you probably have in the background, right? Like
this is true.
It all evens the sides of the force, so to speak. But yeah, we're releasing. So we have some news that just dropped recently, and I think the first one that I would like to share with you, and just kind of, obviously this is my first year kind of following all of the Universal stuff day to day, but now they have released, the Universal Studios Hollywood has shared the 2025 special and seasonal events.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them. And I wasn't quite aware that there were so many. I mean, nearly every day of the calendar is taken. There's something special going on in Hollywood.
Oh yeah. And in fact, I mean, we've talked previously about the special fan nights that are coming. In fact, I have to nail down with Alice. We're actually going to at least one of the One Piece ones. But yeah, I mean, just look at this list. I mean, first of all, I didn't know that Butterbeer had a season. But
I thought it was all year round, Jim.
There we go.
But officially, it's March till May. So I guess I'm going to have to really dig deep into the Butterbeer then.
Okay. So, and we were just talking about the Universal Fan Fest events. Those are going to be held April 25th through May 18th of next year. But you who just became an annual pass holder, there are February 1st through March 20th. We've got a pass member bonus benefit. Exclusive stuff going on at the park. Do we know anything about that?
Yeah, they're not giving us too much of what this is, and I don't know if there was any historical information, if this is something that normally they're doing. But I imagine, and I mean, there's like 3 or 4 throughout the year that are specific pass members, and it has to just drive the local traffic, right? I mean,
no doubt.
This isn't Central Florida, so I haven't looked at the actual numbers, but I imagine Hollywood doesn't get the type of traffic that Florida does from a tourism standpoint. So once again, it's almost how that Disneyland is a regional park that has to pull these special night events in, and you can kind of see that happening. And I have to imagine these pass members, they're going to do some type of benefit, whether it be elongated hours or special merchandise or meet and greets, the same playbook that Disneyland uses.
I gotta say though, when you look at the schedule, like for example, May 1st through May 31st, there's a pass member collectible giveaway. June 25th, or in June of 2025, we have a pass member park takeover,
Right.
an exclusive event. We have it August 15th through September 30th, the pass member appreciation days. This is a lot of this is kind of smart. A lot of love for your annual pass holders. Come on back. We got swag for you, or cool things going into the park
And
for you.
right, and eat a lunch here, eat a dinner, buy some type
Yeah.
of merchandise. So I think it's smart. But as this list, and just to rattle off a couple of the other ones, there's a
Hmm.
4th of July celebration. Back to Hogwarts seems to be Harry Potter special.
Hmm.
Obviously, we have our Halloween Horror Nights. There's holidays at Universal. I was interested by the June 14th to August 10th new
Hmm.
unannounced summer event. What in the heck
Yeah.
does I mean, they're putting it on a calendar. Like normally when you have an unannounced event or something, you just leave it off and just you add it in. But
Hmm.
I wonder if there's something that might be happening there that will be like, "Hey, block this out. If you plan on coming, we're going to take care of you during this."
Hmm.
I don't have any insight or any idea of what that is, but I thought it was interesting that they added that to the event guide.
Yeah. And the one thing worth noting here is we do have that brand new Jurassic World movie coming out next summer. So, gotta wonder about that.
Well, yeah, and then I didn't see anything else about Jurassic, so maybe they'll just have a dinosaur takeover. Maybe they'll let the velociraptors out throughout the park. You can meet them anywhere and
Okay,
everywhere.
all right. I think I'm going to stay on the upper lot for a while. Like,
Right,
the rest of you go down there and check that out and report back. So,
right,
now what's kind of interesting though is that they do note that there will be a New Year's Eve event on December 31st of 2025. But before that, we get a December 31st, 2024 event
right.
out in Hollywood. So, what's going on with that?
Well, I mean, to me, I have you been at it? I mean, let me ask you, Jim, are you crazy enough to go to a theme park on New Year's Eve? Because I'm not.
I have done it in the past, but that was when, for example, I lived in Orlando as a local, and you sort of had to resign yourself to the idea that you're not there to ride the rides, and it's very likely that you're not going to get to see a lot of the shows. You're there for the experience. You're there to be with the crowds, and you do get. I will say this: you always get an absolutely spectacular fireworks display, but you really have to that night to sort of give yourself over to I'm here with 10,000 of my good close personal friends, and we're all going to get through this together.
So
So,
it's a different, yeah. You're not going to be doing rides one after another. It's a
oh no, no,
yeah, no,
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 no.
no,
Well,
no.
I've been in situations. I don't know what the busiest park day I've
Mhm,
ever been at, but there are definitely moments where you're like elbow to
mhm,
elbow, and I'm typically miserable in those. But it does sound like this could be an experience. And
mhm,
the main thing is they're going to have multiple dance locations, so they want you to dance, like you said,
mhm,
fireworks,
mhm,
photo ops, and there is access to select rides and attractions. But
mhm.
I thought it was interesting that it's extended hours until 2 a.m.
Yep,
So
yep.
that's kind of like one of the notions of there were the 24-hour days there. I think at Disneyland or Disney
Mhm.
World there was like this is probably as close as you're going to get because I imagine they open at time and 2 a.m. is really late to close.
And it does get interesting then sweeping a park
Right.
at 2 a.m. Remember, you've got a whole new set of guests who are coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning. So, boy, it's tough on the employees, but on the other hand, the park between you know all of the adult beverages that get purchased, and all of the shirts that say 2025 that get sold on that one night, then you're at home going, why did I buy this? It works out for them, but it's tough for the team members. So thank you in advance for those of you who
Oh,
wind up
absolutely.
getting scheduled.
Right. Well, I will tell you this. I would love to hear from everybody out there to see if this is your cup of tea. Is this
Hmm.
something that you have experienced or even would want to? I'm going to say on the side of, man, I think I might do it once,
Hmm.
but I don't know if I would be into being around that many people on a
Okay.
given night. But I guess if you're going to celebrate in style. So that is happening. So I would love to hear if anyone's doing that. Take pictures, send them our way. Let us know how it went, and if you do it again.
Okay, okay. Now, mind you, Universal is also building something in Texas. Might be a little early to celebrate New Year's Eve down there, but where did you find this concept art for the Universal Kids Hotel?
Well, it dropped recently, and there was a couple other sites that kind of show, they showed the concept art of the front of the building. So we're talking about the Universal Kids Resort that's going to be in Frisco, Texas, and I don't think that opens until summer of like 26. So it's
Oh
it's a
yeah,
while
yeah,
off, but
that it
there
is.
are now dropping not just the concept art, but there's actually some like almost logistical, like the height requirements. So there's an art that came out that was really looks like an architect drawing, very
Hmm, hmm,
colorful, but there's lines basically saying, "Hey, how tall is something going to be, and how many, not necessarily rooms, but the specs of all of that." And I just thought it was interesting that we are moving along, and they're putting this stuff out there that now is readily available through the general, I guess, government sites. When they
hmm,
put out those specs. So it seems to me that they're moving along. And what do you
hmm.
think, Jim, of like the concept art? Does this look like any other hotel that we have in Orlando or
Well, no, I actually what's kind of interesting is you have to go a little bit south to the old dang, I'm blanking the name of it. Oh, the gardens. The place that became Legoland.
Oh yeah, yeah, no, we were there and it
Okay.
does kind of have that vibe, right?
Yeah. Well, the Legoland people, the people at Merlin proved that a park that's aimed at that specific demographic, young children, can do very, very well. And so, and it's interesting to watch Universal in. Uh, Remember, we've got their two-tiered approach to doing things regionally. I think we talked on our most recent show about Universal Horror Unleashed, the thing they're
Right.
building in Vegas, and that's clearly aimed at adults and folks who are in town for conventions and that sort of thing. Where this is very much a park aimed at young kids and families with small kids. In fact, when you look at the IP that this park is built around, I mean, trolls and minions and SpongeBob, and but at the same time, you've got Gabby's Dollhouse, and by the way, don't be taken in by one of these things is not like the other. Jurassic World. That's not Jurassic World. That's Camp Cretaceous,
Mm,
the
okay.
animated series that's based on
Oh, yeah.
Jurassic World. So this is kids love dinosaurs, not the big scary dinosaurs that will eat you, but kids love dinosaurs. And what's interesting is the back of the park is Camp Cretaceous and then our Shrek slash Puss in Boots world. And again, remember, very same year that this park opens is when we're finally getting Shrek 5. So,
Yeah, and looking at the concept art, it like you said, it does look a lot like there's a pirates themed hotel down in Legoland, and we looked at
mhm.
that and it almost kind of reminds me a little bit of the old Nickelodeon hotel that was what turned into like what a Holiday Inn. It
Yeah,
has a lot of that kind of bright colors
it does. It
and I'd be
does.
interested to see how they're going to theme inside.
Mhm,
And it looks to
mhm.
be like 300, maybe 300 people, 300 room
Yeah, yeah.
hotel. So it's a quaint size, but
Mhm.
you listen, I'm gonna find a reason to go down to Texas
Oh,
when
no,
this
no, no,
happens.
absolutely. In fact, our good friend, Jim Schul was just down there visiting family, and in fact, as I recall, he was trying to invent a reason to wander in that
Right.
direction to sort of eyeball the construction. I don't think that happened this trip, but
Well, maybe well, I was gonna say that'd make a heck of a Disney journey on his YouTube, right? Well, that's a real
yeah,
journey. Over here, let's take some pictures of this dirt and a
yeah.
crane,
Mhm.
and so let's hope that he has another trip down there to help us out and get some early
Here's
pics.
open. All right. Now, speaking though, again, we were just talking about the cartoon characters that one will encounter when they go to the Universal Kids Park. But of course, when you and the rest of the Hersey clan were down at Universal Orlando, did you actually get to meet with their brand new cartoonish character there, Earl the Squirrel?
Listen, it was the highlight, Jim, and I think, well, I listen, let's take a break. We come
Okay.
back, I'll give you a little bit of the highlight of my trip of meeting Earl, and I believe you have some, information on why Earl even exists, because that
There
was the
we
original
go.
question I
There
had.
we go. Okay, and we'll do that in a moment. But first, this. And we're back. So, all right, you got to tell me. All right, so you got to meet Earl the Squirrel.
Right, we met him, we had to find out where he was. I believe Earl the Squirrel meets in 2 places. He meets at City Walk, and there's a nice little, like, staged area right outside of the Epic Preview Center, and you can meet him there, and then you could also meet him in, almost like the Central Park area,
Mhm,
right across from almost Mel's Diner.
mhm,
And we had to we got him the last day or the last time of the day. So we went and kind of was waiting in line. I was like, all
mhm,
right, we're gonna wait in line.
mhm,
Probably waited 15, 20 minutes. And I was pretty excited to meet Earl because I've kind of been fascinated and he's all
mhm,
over the park. But I kind of went up to him and I said, and I'm like, Earl, you're the, and Lauren was, of course, being real cute. And she's like, all right, you go have your moment with him. And she let me go talk to him first. And
Okay.
I will tell you, I'm not much of a character. Like, I
Mhm,
don't talk to a lot of the characters. I don't wait in line for characters. I'm not
right.
the greatest interacting back
Okay.
and forth. But if I get excited, then that character is a good friend of mine. And I
Mhm,
was explaining to Earl, I'm like, Earl, the reason we're here today is
mhm,
because your team sent an email while
mhm,
I was at a flag football game, and I pulled it up and I said, "Who the heck is this?"
mhm,
Because on the cover shot, it was Earl, and
mhm.
so I had to look it up. I'm like, I've never seen this character or whatever, and he gave a big hug, and we got ourselves a picture, and the family
Oh,
jumped in. But I was very happy to meet Earl. But
okay.
the question is, Jim, why Earl?
Well, okay. Now, what's interesting about the Earl the Squirrel story is I love that you met him this year because Earl has never been as big as he is this year. I mean, for example, early this year they launched the official Earl the Squirrel book. Did you get a copy of it
Sold
when you were
out,
down?
sold out, Jim.
Dang. Okay, because I wanted to ask if the book actually bears out the story I'm about to share. And by the way, was Earl there with now his girlfriend,
I
Pearl?
didn't see her, but there were definitely things that alluded he had a girlfriend. I seeked, but I didn't see her.
Okay, okay, but and again, and by the way, folks, if you want to get on the Earl the Squirrel goodness, if you go to the Universal Orlando website, their merch page, you can get the plush, you can get the hat, or you can get whatever you want, Earl the Squirrel wise, the coffee mug and all that. But as for the actual origin of this walk around character in the park, Eric, well, it has something to do with an actual destructive rodent and a now beloved holiday film, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which, by the way, this year is celebrating the 35th anniversary of its theatrical release. Yeah, it hit theaters December of 1989. But this story, the story we're telling today, um, Universal team members are a little vague about the actual start date. Some will tell you the Earl the Squirrel saga starts in 2009. Others will tell you no, no, no. It was Christmas of 2010. And I'm sure when you were wandering around Universal Studios Florida, you encountered the 80-foot tall Christmas tree
Yep.
that it's across from the Macy's facade. In fact, that's where the tribute story
Right.
was.
It was
Store.
yes, yes, and that's where I originally thought you would meet him. It kinda made
Mhm,
sense, and then
mhm.
I actually went there and asked someone, and they were like, "No, he's down that way." I'm like, "Okay."
Okay, all right. But now, what's important to understand about this 80-foot tall Christmas tree across from Macy's is that a signature moment of the Universal Holiday Parade featuring Macy's at Universal Studios Florida. That name is too damn long, Eric. But all right, yeah,
Right.
yeah, okay. But in this holiday parade, there's a moment, that the entire time this tree has been standing dark, and Santa arrives in his sleigh. He stands up and he asks the crowd for their help, and with his Santa magic and the crowd helping out, they light up the tree, and it's a lovely moment.
Right.
But of course, in order to have this moment happen, there are technicians that set up the tree and then put the lights into place. And then there's the after hour test to make sure that when Santa comes up with his sleigh and gestures, it works. And so, again, 2009, 2010, the technicians are in the park after hours, and all of the lights are not coming on the tree. And it's like, and there's this one section up toward the top where all of the blue lights that they know they put in there are just not coming on. And so someone goes and gets a ladder and somebody climbs up into the tree, and there's a real squirrel in the tree. and he's chewing on the wires, and he seems to be collecting the blue lights.
I feel like I've seen a cartoon with the rodents from Disney doing this before.
Okay, yes, Chip, Dale. Yeah,
Right.
you're not wrong. Okay, but again, real squirrel, not cute little
Right.
cartoon squirrel. So they call animal control. Control comes and grabs the squirrel. They take him away. They release him, and they get the tree working properly until a couple of days later, when that section of the tree is not working, and it's like, oh, you're kidding me. And so they get the ladder. They climb up. The squirrel is back in the tree, and he's collecting blue bulbs again. And this time, they call animal control, and they say, take this squirrel on a very long vacation.
Right.
For all I know, they released him at Legoland, Florida. But now this becomes the stuff of legend among Universal team members. Did you hear about the squirrel in the tree that was chewing the wires and collecting the blue things? Now, what's kind of interesting about this, of course, is that those of you who remember National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, there is, of
Yeah.
course, a scene in that film where the Christmas tree that Clark has found out in the forest and brings home and sets up inside the Griswold home has a live squirrel in it that then leaps out of the tree while the family is playing Monopoly, and mayhem ensues. And by the way, there was a great story about the making of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation a few years back in Rolling Stone. And they talked about how they had an animal trainer who had worked for months training an actual squirrel and an actual dog to race through the set. And so on the day they were supposed to shoot the scene, everyone's like standing around, what's going on with the animal trainer? And he's like, oh no, the squirrel died.
Oh,
So they had to go with the backup squirrel, which hadn't been trained. I mean, an
oh God.
actual live squirrel who had not been trained, who is now, in fact, Diane Ladd, who plays Clark's mother in the movie, she's the one who lays flat on the carpet and moves and says, I am genuinely terrified because, I mean, squirrels are basically rats with better publicity. And, they have these claws like razors. And so I'm just laying there hoping I don't get attacked. But if we jump ahead now, again, that movie comes out in '89, and then weird moment in the early 2010s, people really start to get, oh, I love that movie, and boy, I wish there were stuff out there, merch celebrating this movie. So and the Warner Brothers studio stores, in fact, we were talking on a recent was it, yeah, it was I Want That with Your Bride. We were talking about how the Warner Brothers store on Fifth Avenue was just up the street from the
Yeah.
Disney
Yeah.
store on Fifth Avenue, and you could go in there, and if you remember the movie, Clark serves eggnog to his family in little goblets that are shaped like Wally the moose from Wally World.
Jim, I have them.
You have them.
I
Oh
have them.
no. Okay.
Absolutely. I believe my sister I gifted them. I mean, this is a classic. This is a movie that we've watched for the year, so we can almost recite it. So yes.
Okay, well there we go. Because starting in the Warner Brothers store actually offered, in fact, the goblets that you were talking about. But in 2011, the squirrel portion of it comes into its own. I mean, they have they have the screeching squirrel that you can put in your tree debuts.
Oh, Jim, this whole story is kind of crazy in its own right. Just thinking of a squirrel trainer, then a squirrel dying, but now we're like squirrel ornaments. It's great.
Okay, but 2013, you can now from Department 56, the folks that make those lovely holiday villages that people set up in their homes, they begin selling Cousin Eddie's Motorhome. And then Hallmark gets into this the year after that, 2014. You can get the Hallmark National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation squirrel ornament that actually plays the moment from the movie with Clark with the squirrel in the
Oh
back.
God.
But and the part of the story which I love, which will become important shortly, is around this same time. If you go looking for that weird hunter's hat that Cousin Eddie
Yep.
wears when
Yep.
he's outside emptying the sewer compartment of his RV into the storm drain,
Right. Blank's full.
there we go. All right. But the weird thing is, if you go on Amazon or eBay right now, the way the description is hunter's cap with flap. often includes the additional Cousin Eddie's hat from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So remember that, because that's going to be important in a moment. So now, and it actually, it's Alicia Stellar of Orlando Park Stop who has nailed when this started coming into the park officially. That it went from a story that team members told one another to suddenly in the Macy's tree, they began putting a squirrel holding blue lights
Yes.
in the tree. And then at first it was just a plush. Just somebody found a squirrel plush and put some blue lights on it. And it became sort of a Where's Waldo thing for team members, and they'd walk around the tree. Oh, there he is. And then a year or so after that, it became a mechanical squirrel on a pneumatic. And so it would pop in and out of a hole in the tree. And, but now, team members who were giving guest tours at the park over the holiday start to share the story of the squirrel in the tree.
Right.
And it begins to take on a life of its own outside of the park. And what's kind of interesting in the year 2020, I mean, obviously that was a very tough year for the theme park industry, what with the pandemic and COVID and the like. And I don't know why that especially put gas in the Earl the Squirrel tank, but that's what happened. Suddenly, the tribute store, which again had been something Universal had done for a couple of years here, they decided that they were going to do a fourth store inside of this that was going to be based on the legend of the squirrel in the tree. And the interesting thing is that if you look at Earl the Squirrel, the way the character has been designed, he's wearing Cousin Eddie's hat,
Yes.
because
Yes.
now these two stories have come together. The tree, the squirrel that was in the Griswold family's tree, has somehow become. He's now wearing Cousin Eddie's hat. And here's the really bizarre bend on the story, Eric. In the scene where the squirrel is broken loose in the Griswold home, Eddie's not there. Eddie has left to go
Right.
get Clark's boss because of the whole Jelly of the Month Club thing.
Right.
But that doesn't matter. Earl the Squirrel, and in fact, evidently, that was the initial idea, that it was Eddie the Squirrel. It's like, no, 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 rhyming name,
Right.
Earl the Squirrel. Let's go with that. And so he's got Eddie's hat, uh, and that was the year where it was what the Earl the Squirrel's holiday tree farm, and that was where the food items were located, and people just came in and just. I love this character. I want more of Earl the Squirrel. Though the irony of this, the part of the story I love is that Earl the Squirrel, the cartoon character, debuts this year, but the mechanical squirrel is still in the tree. But because it's the year of the pandemic, in fact, you can go and see this online, Eric. This is the year that when the squirrel pops out of the tree, he's social distancing and he has a mascot.
Right. Right.
But anyway, by 2001, the very next year, Earl is a costume character. He's a walk around in the park. And in fact, one of the reasons they moved him out to the preview center and down into the Central Park areas, they initially had him by the Macy's tree. And what they discovered is, oh my God, he's Elvis.
Yes.
And people who just wanted to get their family photo, oh, well, we're standing in front of the universal tree, and what's the deal with this giant rodent?
Right.
But anyway, here we are after all of that going on, and this is his biggest year yet. In fact, it just tells you the tale of Earl the Squirrel. They had an official book launch and a signing. Earl was there on November 23rd in the tribute store, and they went clean so fast on all of these books. And I guess we have to put this out to listeners of the Epic Universal podcast. What does the official story say of Earl's origin? Because again, this all supposedly tracks back to that one actual destructive rodent who really liked blue light bulbs. But again, when that idea came crashing into National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, but now I have to ask: do you really use the Melvin the Moose mugs every year,
I
or
don't drink eggnog, but we have it.
ah
We have them, and I believe that we usually have some family gatherings, and that's when they're busted out. I don't know
okay?
if they would make it through the entire season with a 7-year-old if we just use them for select. So when they say get out the good,
Mhm.
the glasses, that's when we get them out. So
Now, what's interesting little bend on this story that the folks at Universal Hollywood do not have Earl the Squirrel yet.
ah,
But they have been eyeing the merch sales, and it's sort of like, "We might wanna get in on this." But the thing is, on the West Coast, it's like, we don't have this organic story. We can't talk about the actual squirrel who got up in the tree and was chewing the wiring and yada, yada, yada. And this only in today's world where there's a Comcast and there's a Peacock that desperately needs content, and evidently, and you're going to love this, Eric. Evidently, they are seriously talking about an Earl the Squirrel holiday
oh,
special.
I was hoping you would say that. I would,
You know, you
as
know.
someone who's watched and been paying attention to a lot of Rankin Bass and so forth, man, a stop motion Earl the Squirrel would be amazing. But then again, they've done well with some of like the cartoon animation as well. So
Yeah, but it's one of these things where I guess at this point the conversations are about, is this something that would make fun of holiday specials, or should we do something sincere? Because not to belabor the obvious, but Disney just this year has the Almost Christmas Story, which is about that owl that got trapped in the tree that got brought to Rockefeller Center. And it's just okay. So animal and tree at Christmas, that's kind of been done.
yeah,
But just sort of watch this space, folks, because again, I hate to say this, but Duffy the bear started as just one character, and then he got his girlfriend Sadie Mae,
yeah,
and now he has like 12 friends.
Dylan, Tony, and yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I wonder if Earl's family, Earl and Pearl, are going to be joined by other family members in the years ahead. So watch this space.
So you're
But
saying
like I
buy
said,
the stock early, buy get some of the early merchandise now, and it does look like there's a decent amount of merchandise out there,
oh
and I was
yeah,
very very tempted to
no
buy
no no.
a hat, the shirt, and like a beanie hat. I'm like, but when am I going to wear this?
I know, same thing. I mean, I have to say the exact same thing when I was on the Universal Orlando webpage just today. And it's just sort of like I had zero sales resistance, but I had to pivot away because it's like, yes, I will buy this and it will arrive at the house. And it's like I will have instantaneous, I would be delighted and have buyer's remorse at the exact same time. Because it's like, when am I wearing this?
Well, I'll tell you what we all should do, Jim, and I think
Mhm,
it's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that. It brings a
mhm.
lot, and I think everybody that's going to the parks this season can enjoy meeting Earl the Squirrel, knowing his backstory. But I think we all go to maybe a local Hobby Lobby or somewhere where you can buy some fake squirrels, right?
Ah,
Like, and let's all put them in our tree this year in homage, and we'll do that together as a universal fandom. So thank you for that. That was a great story. I really
no,
and
I
like I
do.
said, highlight of the trip was meeting Earl.
Okay. Well, again, to give credit where credit was due here, but before Eric left on vacation, he was like, I want to know more about this guy. So I went off and did some research and found all of these amazing stories. So, and again, just to give credit where credit is due here, again, Alicia Stella did a lot of early work on the Earl the Squirrel saga and was able to pin down when, again, 2015 is when
Yeah.
this did get started. So
And I'll tell you, she's a must follow on any social network, especially during she's her and Bio Reconstruct are doing tons for Epic Universal.
that
So
there.
if you are not following her, follow her on social. But Jim, speaking of following, hey, if you guys want to reach out and show me your squirrels and your trees, feel free to send at Eric Hersey on Instagram or X. Jim, where can they send all their lovely Universal ornament pictures to you?
Well, you can follow me on X and over on Instagram at Jim Hill Media and over on Facebook at Jim Hill Media News. So I guess that's going to do it for today's show. I want to thank you for listening. And by the way, stick around, folks, to hear what's coming up later this month over on the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. Thanks for listening to today's episode. And if you like what you heard, head on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. This really helps get the word out about our shows. We also have some other shows on the network that you might like. Each week, we drop a brand new Disney dish with Len Testa. For animation and movie news, please listen to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor. By the way, you can also check out Drew's other podcasts, like The Fuse, the official Mission Impossible podcast, which he does with Charles Hood. For all things Lucasfilm, why don't you subscribe to Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gahn? Likewise, we have I Want That Too with the lovely Lauren Hersey, our weekly podcast that features the latest merch and the stories behind that merch. And our epic Universal podcast takes a look at the Universal theme park. So please join Eric Hersey and I on that weekly. If you enjoy theme park history, we also host Manufacturing the Magic with Shelley and Noah Valladolid. That podcast tells the story of how we got the modern theme parks that we enjoy today. Join myself, Len Testa, and veteran Imagineer Jim Schul for our latest season of Disney Unpacked, our first ever video series exclusively for Patreon. These get released first Sunday of every month, and each month we release several exclusive podcasts to help support this video series. I want to thank everyone that supports the Jim Hill Media Network. For more information about podcasts and content, head on over to jimhillmedia.com. So that's going to do it for now, folks. Thanks again for listening, and we will catch up on the next show.